Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. Well, in continuation of our discussion about the roots of HOCD, we want to discuss something that has been very common, and I've been getting lots of emails and in my one-on-one Skype consultations that many of you book, and we talk about your personal issues, whether it's a breakup or some mental challenge of this sort, OCD and whatnot. I hear over and over the concerns that you all have about the fact that you have a thought when you are out and about, whether it's people you don't know or with your circle of friends. You have a thought of that you want to kiss the guy. You're being suggested by a thought that you like it. You want to kiss the guy. And other intrusive thoughts, such as, all the other stuff that you can imagine, that it's of sexual nature. And many of you say, oh, well, then, it must be meaning I've been living in denial, or I'm changing, or I'm becoming homosexual. And you find that as a sign or a proof of homosexuality, because such thoughts of kissing the guy or other images have shown up in your head. Well, first of all, if that is so, let's talk about it. If that is so, let's assume that such ideas and suggestions and thoughts of kissing another guy, or a friend of yours, or someone that you meet out there you're walking about, or some other sexual intrusive thoughts or images, if we assume that this is a sign of inclination, sexual inclination, then why is it that when we are not in an HOCD glitch and we are having a healthy state of mind, and when we are heterosexual, we never have these sort of thoughts about girls that we encounter? It's not like intrusive thoughts and thoughts of a sexual nature is produced. Why is it not happening there? Because if that is a sign of inclination, a sexual inclination, then it should be present in any kind of sexual inclination. If it's supposed to be a sign of being a homosexual, then what about all the other heterosexual friends of ours, or when you yourself are not in the glitch of HOCD, why you didn't have these kind of intrusive thoughts about girls that are out there and so on? The first thing that we usually think about the girls, if we have a sexual inclination of heterosexuality, what do you think about them? You think about falling in love with them, marry them, yeah? But the sign of being a heterosexual is not having intrusive and of sexual nature images and thoughts about a woman that you just met, or some friend of yours, until it is moved into a certain kind of a relationship or certain kind of arrangement. Those thoughts, we're usually, when we see a woman that we like, we're a little bit, we try to be very polite inwardly and outwardly in our behavior. But so, if we are not having such intrusive thoughts and suggestive thoughts, sexual suggestive thoughts, when we are heterosexual, or ask our other heterosexual friends, then why is that having that kind of intrusive sexual inclined thoughts or ideas of, or thoughts of kissing your friend or kissing a guy would mean that you're homosexual? Since it's not happening when you're actually acting with a normal, healthy state of mind, and whatever gender you are, it's not coming with these sort of intrusive thoughts, then that means when it does, in any kind of a sexual orientation, those images and thoughts are the result of malfunction of the brain, not new inclination towards something else. It's a malfunction of caudate nucleus, as we talked about. I mean, it's proven by the scientists and psychotherapists and researchers that these intrusive thoughts that everyone in the world, all 7 or 8 billion of us, or however it's going to go for, these intrusive thoughts that everybody has it, when it's into the glitch of OCD, it's because of, in this case, HOCD, homosexual OCD, which heterosexuals are hit by it, is the result of malfunction of the signaling system, which mainly is caudate nucleus, is not shutting down the intrusive thoughts that inwardly it's already known to our system that we are not interested. So when the orbital frontal cortex introduces or suggests such thoughts that are irrelevant to our gender or to our sexual inclination, we're not interested of it, then the caudate nucleus, knowing about how our system is wired up, it shuts down that kind of thoughts. But when it malfunctions, then it doesn't shut it off. So it's the reason it's there and it's created is because brain makes all kinds of thoughts, 80, 90,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are intrusive. So when it does make such suggestions that are not in line with our core values and are wired up gender, then caudate nucleus is supposed to shut it down. When it's malfunctioning, it doesn't shut it down. When it doesn't get shut down, we think, oh, then that means we've been living in denial, or we're changing, or that means I'm now becoming homosexual. Well, listen, you're not cow's milk that one day you're milk, and if it stays a little bit longer, then you become sour milk, and then a little bit longer it becomes yogurt, and then suddenly, if it's really long while, you become cheese. Gender is not like that. It's about chromosomes. You're made in your mother's womb, either Y or X or whatever chromosome it is that creates heterosexual, homosexual, or whatever gender that it is. When you're made that way out of your mother's womb, then that's it. That's how you're going to be the rest of your life. It doesn't matter what thought shows up. Thought wasn't there when you were being created in the way you've been created, in the gender you've been created, and it never will be involved in anything of that sort, let alone changing or altering your gender in any shape or form. It's because it shows up some thoughts. Well, that's what brain does. It creates thoughts, and 80, 90,000 a day, and most of them are intrusive. That's its nature. That's its job. Just because it's doing all this nonsense that its job doesn't mean that you're supposed to take that, oh, what it creates, therefore that means it has to do with me changing my gender. No, it just is doing its job, which is involved making thoughts, and then when it goes malfunction, it creates intrusive thoughts, and everybody has that intrusive thoughts. But in cases that they're not in the glitch of OCD, they say, oh, that was a crazy thought, nasty, and then they move on about their business because caudate nucleus shuts it down. But in cases of OCD and becomes HOCDs when caudate nucleus doesn't do its job. Otherwise, the brain is just making thoughts, and making thoughts of intrusive kind. That doesn't mean you're changing your gender. It just means it's nasty thoughts. That's all you should think of it. It's a bad thought for you. It's nasty. It's disgusting. Depending on your gender, many different things are disgusting to some and not disgusting to the others. But we're talking about heterosexuals who are dealing with the HOCD, which means all you have to think is that that's a nasty thought. I'm not interested in that. That's a bad thought. So then you go on. But you're not supposed to say, oh, because it showed up. Well, that's what it does. It's the brain that is creating these thoughts. It's not you. It's the thought that is created by the brain. Brain is a separate system, does its own thing. It's not thinking about what you are, who you are, what kind of a thought it should be proper in your head. It just makes thought. It has no gender. It just does thought. It's a mechanical, material process, mechanical system, electrical system. It just makes thoughts. That's its job. You're supposed to be filtering these based on your presence and your intelligence and your smarts and your programming that you know of. The me is beyond the thoughts and brain, and then you regulate it and say, okay, I filtered this is nonsense, not irrelevant to me. I know there's a malfunction in my brain, caudate nucleus is not doing its job, but I'll just behave in such a way that I should, according to my gender, according to standing my ground, protecting myself until by my behavior, the caudate nucleus gets back to its function because I'm rewiring myself through neuroplasticity by behaving in a certain way in light of certain thoughts that I know they're not of my interest, and therefore the system reboots itself after a while. And that's what you should be focusing on, rather than getting bamboozled and thinking that, oh, mixing up the malfunction with anything else ever. So live long and prosper, and we'll talk soon.